So, as you all know, today we are going to speak about Salamah, radiallahu ta'ala anha.
Mic down.
Down? That better? Bismillah. So, Salamah, radiallahu anha, does anyone know, let's start with a good question. Does anyone know what her real name is? Salamah, what's her real name? Because you know all this, when it says or Abu or something, that's not the real name. That's what's called the kunya in Arabic. What's her real name? Okay, so Salamah's real name is Hind. So she's Hind bint Abi Umayya al-Makhzumiyya. So now some people say her name is Ramla. Ramla is not her name. That's confused. That's being confused with who? I don't know. Who's called Ramla? Who is called Ramla? Yeah, so Ramla is Habiba, the daughter of Abu Sufyan. She is also a wife of the Prophet. Now, Salamah was from the tribe of Banu Makhzum. Does anyone know who else is from Banu Makhzum? Has anyone heard of Khalid ibn al-Walid? Yeah, so Khalid ibn al-Walid is her first cousin, and also Abu Jahl, right? They're all from Banu Makhzum. Banu Makhzum is one of the, I guess you could say, sub-tribes of Quraysh. And Quraysh and the big tribe that were in Mecca. And of course the Prophet ﷺ was from which one, yeah? And which family in Quraysh? You know, nowadays people say I'm something Hashimi, right? So the Prophet ﷺ was from Banu Hashim. And all these other people are from Banu Makhzum. Now it's very important to understand a bit about this, the families and how they relate to each other, because, all right, you'll see why. So Salamah was first married to Abu Salamah, of course, and he was the Prophet's brother. We say in Arabic, min al-rada'a, the Prophet's brother from rada'a, or from breastfeeding. What does that mean? It means that Abu Salamah and the Prophet ﷺ were both breastfed by the same woman when they were younger, and that makes them. Now, does anyone know if suppose a woman breastfeeds a male, and then however long later, 10 years later, breastfeeds a female? What consequences does that have? They don't know.
They will be brother and sister.
They will be brother and sister, right? So, for example, they can't marry each other. For example, they can't do that. Even if by blood there's no link between them. Could even be one person is from India and one person is from China. They've got no link at all. But if they've been breastfed by the same woman, then that makes them brother and sister from breastfeeding. Yeah. So Abu Salamah, as I just said, was very close to the Prophet ﷺ. He was his brother from breastfeeding. Now, as we know, as we know, Abu Salamah and Salamah were of the first people to accept Islam, maybe even within the first 10 or so. And what happened is, the situation in Mecca became very difficult for the Muslims, right? So what did the Prophet ﷺ tell them to do? Yes. To Ethiopia, right? Yes. So he said to migrate. He said, "Inna fil habashati malikan la yuzlamu 'indahu ahad." There's a king in Abyssinia, and nobody is oppressed in his land, right? Nobody is oppressed in his land. Why is this very important? Because, as we just mentioned, the Muslims were getting oppressed in Mecca, right? And we also know that there were other places like the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, which is in Syria, places like that. But the rulers there were known to be oppressive. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, go to Abyssinia. So of the people who went there were Salamah and Abu Salamah. Now, when they went there, now, so by the way, you know we have all these stories of, for example, when the people of Mecca sent Amr ibn al-As to Abyssinia to get the Muslims to come back, right? Okay, hopefully that's better. And Ja'far ibn Abi Talib was speaking to the Abyssinian king, and Amr ibn al-As was also speaking to him, and they were basically debating with each other. All of these stories, where do we get them from? Who narrates them? They're all narrated by Salamah. Almost all the narrations of the time of the Muslims in Abyssinia, they all come to us from Salamah. She's the one who narrates them. Now, what happened is, after they spent some time in Abyssinia, they came back to Mecca. Why did they come back to Mecca? Because there were rumors that the people in Mecca had all accepted Islam. So this news got to Abyssinia. Everyone in Mecca has accepted Islam, come back. So even without the Prophet ﷺ even asking them, they all came back. Only to find that it's not true. Yes, Hamza and Umar had accepted Islam and a few other very important people, but it's not true. The majority of them are still disbelievers, and the majority of them are still trying to get everyone to leave Islam and go back to worshipping idols. So they emigrated again. They made the second emigration back to Abyssinia again. And guess what? Salamah and Abu Salamah made the emigration again. So you can see they've already made two emigrations. Now why might this be significant? Why is it significant to make an emigration? Does anyone know? Can anyone think of any hadith or any virtue or anything like that for emigration? What are the three things which wipe out all of your past bad deeds? Does anyone know? Come on, let's have some guesses at least. Yeah.
I'm trying to guess, but I think it's immigration. Maybe.
How did you guess? Okay. What else? Have you become a Muslim? Yes, if you become a Muslim. What's the only one that we today can do? Hajj, right? So there's those three things. There's the Hajj, there's the emigration, and there's becoming a Muslim. So these three things, they make it's as if a person is just born, right? It takes them back to that. You know when a newborn baby, they don't have any sins, right? So these are those things which can give us that same virtue. So they've already made two emigrations, right? To Abyssinia twice. Now again, later on the Muslims again returned to Mecca. So they did return to Mecca. And when they were about to go to Medina, so they decided they go to Medina. Salamah and Abu Salamah, they go to Medina. What happened? Her family came and stopped them and said, all right, you want to go to Medina, that's fine. This is Abu Salamah. You want to go, but you're not going to take our daughter. She's not coming with you. So they stopped her coming. And when his family heard that they've stopped her from when his family heard that he's going to Medina, and her family, Salamah's family, is stopping her from going with him, stopping her and the child from going with him, they also went to join in this argument, and they said, no, if he's going to Medina, and you're staying, you aren't going to keep the child. So they went and they grabbed it. So maybe I didn't mention, they had a child. Can anyone guess what his name was? Salamah, yes. So they had a child called Salamah. And now her family, so now he's leaving to Medina. Her family have stopped her from going, and of course she has the child. Her family have stopped her from going. And now his family have come and said, well, no, hold on, he's going, you're staying, you aren't going to keep the child. So they grabbed the child and they were trying to pull the child away. And again, you can already see what I said before about the whole tribalism thing and the clans and the sub-clans and the families within each clan and so on. Because, as I said, she was from the sub-tribe or the clan of Banu Makhzum. And in fact, so was he. They were both from Banu Makhzum. It's just that they were like cousins or something. They weren't from exactly the same family. So his family were already getting that sort of rivalry going, and they were saying, no, you're not keeping the child, we're going to take the child. So they start pulling the child away. So now her family's pulling the child, his family's pulling the child's shoulder got dislocated. And at that point, it says in the narration, at that point she screamed, and she said to her family, no, just let him go, just let them take him. So this shows, of course, this shows the love of the mother, that the mother doesn't want anything to happen to her child, even if it means that her child's going to be taken away from her. And this reminds me of the story. There's a story of the Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam when he had to judge in a particular matter. Two women came to him, and they were both claiming a child. Both women were saying, "This is my child." I was saying, "No, this is my child." So then what happened? He said, and this shows the wisdom of the Prophet Sulaiman. By the way, is everyone with me? I'm not still talking about the story from Salamah. I'm talking about something else now. I'm talking about the Prophet Sulaiman. What happened? It's a similar thing. That's why I'm mentioning this. This shows the wisdom of the Prophet Sulaiman. What he did is he said, bring a sword. And what we'll do is, okay, they're both saying it's their child. So why don't we go halves? Let's cut the child in half. You take half, you take half. So then one of the women screamed and she said, no, don't do that. Just give it to her. It's her child. So then Sulaiman alayhi salam said, yeah, this person who said give it to the other woman, she's the mother. And he gave it to her because he can tell that he knows that the real mother is not going to want any harm to happen to a child, even if it means that for a temporary amount of time, if the child's going to go somewhere else, she doesn't mind. She doesn't want anything to happen to a child. So same here, we can see Salamah, she didn't want anything to happen to a child. So when both families were pulling the child from each other, she said, okay, just let the child go, but don't do anything. Don't do anything. Don't like pull him into two parts. Anyway, what happened is, now her family have stopped her. Abu Salamah's family have taken the child, and Abu Salamah goes to Medina. And again, this shows you how difficult the situation was in Makkah, right? Because you can imagine this: he was going to emigrate with his wife and with his child, who's still an infant, right? His child is still a baby. He was going to emigrate with both of them, and now he can't. But even so, he's still going. What does that show you? It shows you how difficult the situation was in Makkah, right? Imagine you're going to go on a trip somewhere, and then your wife and your child both get detained, and you still go. So it shows you how difficult the situation was for the Muslims in Makkah. And again, nowadays we complain about a lot of things. One of them being Islamophobia, and we say everyone's against us. So what is very difficult for us to we can't do anything, we can't pray, can't do this, can't do that. The reality is, for example, most schools have prayer rooms, right? Wherever you go, you can pray, you can fast. Even in this country, even in a country that isn't run by Muslims, still we have the freedom to do what we want to do, more or less, right? If we compare our situation to their situation, it's very, very, very different. We are living in a luxury here. So Abu Salamah went to Medina. Now Salamah is left in Makkah. Husband's gone, child's gone. So she said that for a whole year she was just going out to that area where they'd been separated and crying for a whole year. Until what happened is a person from the Quraysh came to her own family and they said to her, look, what's wrong with you? Why are you being so? Don't you have any mercy? Like, can't you see that she's struggling? Can't you just let her go? Let her go and join her family. So they actually were convinced and they said, fine, you go and join your husband in Medina. And guess what? When Abu Salamah's family in Makkah found out that she's actually now going to join him in Medina, they said, okay, fine, you can take the child as well. So now she got, after a whole year, and again, this shows you, we always want things to come very quickly, right? People make dua and they say, oh Allah, give me, I don't know, whatever people ask for nowadays. And if it doesn't come the next day or after 2 days or something, people get impatient, right? She had to wait for a whole year until eventually, now she can go to Medina to join her husband with her child as well. But then she was looking for someone to go with, and she couldn't find anyone. So she thought, okay, well, I better not wait over here any longer because they might change their mind. So she decided to leave and go by herself. Now again, this might not sound too dramatic in our times, But back then, it was just, back then even men would rarely travel by themselves. You're traveling through the desert, like there's a 99% chance that you're going to get ambushed by some highway robbers and you're not going to survive. So for a woman to travel by herself and with a young child, all the way from Makkah to Medina. Does anyone know how far Medina is from Makkah? Give me some idea in terms of distance or how long it takes. Yeah? 5 hour drive. Exactly. 5 hour drive.
8 days.
8 days.
Walking.
8 days. Have you experienced it going on camel?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So what's that? So for us from Cambridge, like roughly where will it take 5 hours to get to? Scotland.
No.
Okay.
Scotland,
Okay.
like the
So
entrance of Scotland or the entrance of Wales.
Scotland. Yeah. So we're going to get to Scotland in 5 hours, right? So imagine she has to travel all that way by herself
Walking.
on a camel.
On a-
Okay, so it's not that would imagine how difficult that would be. But she said, well, I can't wait around here because now my family might change their mind, and she had to wait for a whole year for this to happen. So she decided she's just going to go by herself. So she set off, and when she was when she had reached Tan'im is a place just outside Mecca, just north of Mecca. Which of course, I hope you all know Medina is north of Mecca, right? If Mecca is here, Medina is here. So just north of Mecca, she had reached Tan'im, where today there is Masjid Aisha, and then someone came and someone met her there. Before we move on, what else do we know about Tan'im? Does anyone know anything about Tan'im? Yes?
It's the people from Mecca. They go to Tan'im to start their
Exactly, yes. So the miqat of the people of Mecca is Tan'im. So I don't know if you guys know, to put on your ihram, you have to put on your ihram from a certain location, from a certain distance away. Has anyone ever been for Umrah? Okay, the lucky ones. When did you put on your ihram?
on the plane.
You don't remember?
In the airport.
In the airport. Okay, in the airport. You have to put on your ihram in the airport, right? You can't. So does anyone wait till they get to the Kaaba, and then when they're just outside the Kaaba in the hotel, they're like, oh, I can see the Kaaba there. Then they change into their ihram. Is that allowed? No, right? You have to put it on from a certain distance away. So even if you're in Mecca itself, you have to go out to this place called Tan'im and put on your ihram and then come back. Anyway, when she was there, a man called Uthman ibn Talha met her. Uthman ibn Talha was not a Muslim. There's an interesting fact about him. He was actually the holder of the keys of the Kaaba. So you guys know that the Kaaba does have an inside, right?
Yeah.
There's doors, you can go inside. So the person who had the keys to the Kaaba to get inside the Kaaba, it was this person, Uthman ibn Talha. So he met her there, and he was really shocked, like to see someone like that traveling all by herself outside of Mecca. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, Salamah was from a very noble family. She was very respected, well known. Her father was a very generous person. He was called Zad al-Rakib, the provisions of the traveler, because whenever he would go on a travel with anyone, he would provide food for the whole group of people he's traveling with. Imagine that, right? I'm sure we'd all like that. When you're going traveling somewhere, you don't have to worry about bringing food. There'll just be this chap who comes with you. He'll always sort out all the food. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So her father was that person. So everyone respected her father. Everyone respected her family. Everyone respected her. So when he saw her, he was like, "What's she doing? Traveling all by herself to some faraway place?" And he said, "No, this shouldn't happen. So I'm going to travel with you." So he traveled all the way with her, and she said she'd never seen any person like that who was so as noble as him in the sense that when he was traveling with her, he would never even look at her. He would be pulling her camel along, walking in front. And when they stop to take a break, because as you mentioned, 8-day travel, you can't do it continuously. So when they stop to take a break, he would just leave the camel and he'd go and sit down by a tree, and he'd say to her, "Okay, get down now, we're going to take a break." And then he would come, and then later on he'd come back, and then they'd resume the journey, and so on. He traveled with her all the way to Quba. Where's Quba? Just outside Medina, right? So he traveled with her all the way to Quba, and then at that point he said to her, "Okay, this is where your husband is. He's in the city. I'll leave you now," and he went. I'm sure we would all like to know whether this person accepted Islam or not. It's nice to know he did accept Islam at the conquest of Mecca. He did, no, not at the conquest of Mecca. He accepted Islam before the conquest of Mecca. Has anyone heard of Khalid ibn Walid and Amr ibn al-As?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Does anyone know roughly when they accepted Islam?
Yeah.
When?
Roughly, like before the conquest.
Before the conquest of Mecca. Okay, so I like how you're following my words very closely. He knows how to take the hints. Okay, so during the time of Hudaybiyah, they accepted Islam. This person also accepted Islam with them. So 3 of them went to the Prophet ﷺ and they accepted Islam. So going back to Salamah, she got to Medina, and okay, so she got to Medina. She was reunited with her husband, and for a few years, obviously, they lived, in relative happiness compared to what was happening in Mecca. It was very difficult. And the year when they were completely separated, now they were living together for a while. He participated in Badr, which I don't know if you guys know that participating in Badr is a very big thing. There are levels to the companions. So there are the 10 who were promised paradise. Then there are the Badriyun, the people who participated in Badr. And as some of you might have heard, even amongst the angels, the angel Jibreel told the Prophet ﷺ that even amongst the angels, the best of the angels are the ones who participated in Badr. Right? So Abu Salamah was one of those who participated in Badr. Okay. Now, Salamah once said to Abu Salamah that I've heard that if a woman's husband dies, if a woman's husband passes away, and he is from the people of Jannah, and then she does not remarry after he's died, Allah will reunite them in Jannah. Allah will make them together in Jannah. So the woman's husband passes away, and she doesn't marry after him, Allah will reunite them in Jannah. So she said to him, let's each take an oath that neither of us will remarry if the other dies. So if I die, you won't remarry. If you die, I won't remarry. He said to her, if I tell you something, will you listen to it? Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think. If I tell you something, will you listen? She said, yes, of course. He said, if I die, then make sure to remarry. If I die, then make sure to remarry. Why might he be saying this?
Because he doesn't want her to stay alone.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got children as well, don't they? We already mentioned they've got a child called Salamah. They also had 2 other children called Umar and Zainab. Umar and Zainab and Salamah. These 3 children. So they have these 3 children. Now imagine he passes away and she just stays by herself. It's going to be very difficult, right? So he said to her, no, you should marry again. And then he made a dua as well. He said, Oh Allah, give Salamah after me someone who is better than me and will not cause her any sadness or harm. Okay, give Salamah after me someone who is better than me. Now, the son Umar, he narrates that his father was injured at the battle of Uhud, and after so his father was injured at the battle of Uhud. He came back, and she was speaking to him, and she was trying to see, how is he feeling, and she realized he could tell he was about to die. She realized he was about to die. So he said to her, I heard the Prophet ﷺ say that there is no Muslim who makes this dua when he is afflicted with a calamity. What dua? Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wa akhlifni khayran minha. Except that Allah will replace whatever he lost with better, or whatever he or she lost with better. Allahumma ajirni fi musibati. Oh Allah, ajirni is like ajir. Be with me basically. Oh Allah, be with me, or take care of me in my calamity. Wa akhlifni khayran minha, and replace what I've lost with better. Replace what I've lost with better. So he said to her, I've heard the Prophet ﷺ say that there's no Muslim who makes this dua when he loses something, except that Allah will replace it with what? With better. So when he passed away, and he passed away in Jumad al-Akhirah or Jumad al-Ukhra, in the 4th year of the Hijrah. Which year of the Hijrah? 4th. What does that mean? 4 years after the migration of Prophet ﷺ, right? What year of the Hijrah are we in now?
1443.
Very good. So 4 years after the Hijrah, he passed away in Jumad al-Ukhra. And it was the Prophet ﷺ himself who actually the Prophet ﷺ was with him when he passed away, and the Prophet ﷺ was the one who actually closed his eyes. You know, when someone passes away, you even if their eyes are still open, you close their eyes. So now she remembered this dua that he taught her. So she said it. She said, okay, Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wa akhlifni khayran minha. Oh Allah, take care of me or be with me in this calamity and replace me with better than what I've lost. But she was thinking to herself, even while she was saying it, who can possibly be better than Abu Salamah? No one's going to be better than Abu Salamah. She couldn't imagine that it would be possible for Allah to replace him with someone who is better than him. Now, as I said, he passed away in Jumad al-Ukhra, and then so now she had to, of course, before anyone can come to ask to marry her, they have to wait for her iddah to pass. And it says in Qadat iddatuha fi Shawwal. Her iddah finished in Shawwal. What is iddah? Does anyone know what iddah is? Waiting period. Yeah. So if someone's it could happen if divorced or widowed, the person has to wait a certain period of time until they can remarry, and it varies depending on whether it's divorce or widow or something else. It depends on, and there are lots of verses in the Quran about this. Actually, in Surah Al-Baqarah. Who has memorized Surah Al-Baqarah? Anyone? I'm sure some people in Cambridge have memorized Surah Al-Baqarah. Yeah. So, mashallah. So you know, have you heard? There's all these verses, right? والذين يتوفون منكم ويذرون أزواجا يتربصن بأنفسهن أربعة أشهر وعشرة. So actually, that gives it away. I was going to say, if he passed away in Jumad al-Ukhra, and then her iddah finished in Shawwal, how long is it? 4 months and 10 days. Yes, exactly as it says in the verse. 4 months and 10 days. So she had to wait around 4 months and 10 days. After that, what happened? Remember what she said? She said, I made the dua, oh Allah, replace him with better, but I knew deep down inside it's not actually possible for Allah to. There's no one who can possibly be better than him. After 4 months and 10 days, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came and proposed to her. Surely she's going to accept it, right? She said no. She said no. Then Umar came to her and proposed to her. She said no. Okay, then the Prophet ﷺ himself came to her and proposed to her. Surely this time she's going to accept it, right?
No.
So what did she say? She said to the Prophet ﷺ, Wallahi ma li anka raghba. By Allah, there's no. It's not that I have any desire not to marry you. Basically, it's not that I'm against the idea of marrying you, but. And then she said a few things. And before I mention what she actually said, you notice here a very important, very good characteristic which she had. The Prophet ﷺ just come propose to her, and she didn't straight away say, yes, I'm going to accept. Which is what maybe you'd imagine. You know, the Prophet ﷺ is the best of all creation, right? There's never anyone better than the Prophet ﷺ proposes to someone. Maybe you might think straight away they jump at and say, yes, of course. But when he proposed to her, she was saying that, and then there was a but, and she was going to say some more things. So this is actually there's this characteristic of thinking things through carefully, not jumping into things, not jumping into decisions, taking your time, thinking clearly, considering everything, and then deciding, and then doing something. This is very important. And there's actually again. I should clarify before I don't want to lose anyone. This is something completely separate now. I'm talking about a completely separate story, but this characteristic. There's a narration that once a group of people came to the Prophet ﷺ from far away. A group of people came. All of them went to meet the Prophet ﷺ straight away. As soon as they got to Medina, they all ran to meet him straight away. Except there was one young person. This is the hadith of Al-Ashaj Abdul Qais. There's one young person who took his time. He went and cleaned himself up. He took a bath. He put on some new clothes and so on. Took his time. got himself ready, and then he went to meet the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So all the others, they got to Medina, they all ran to meet him straight away, straight from their travel. One person took his time and got himself ready, and then came to meet the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ said to this person, Wallahi, inna fika la khislatan, inna fika la khislatayn yuhibbuhuma Allah wa rasuluh. In you, by Allah, in you there are two very good characteristics which Allah and His Messenger love. What are these two characteristics? He said, al-hilm wal-ana. Al-hilm basically means to have control of your emotions. To have control of your emotions. Something which many of us are lacking in this day and age. Right? Many people let their emotions get the better of them. As soon as something happens, they can't control themselves. And al-ana. What is al-ana? Al-ana is basically to, or at-ta'anni. At-ta'anni is basically to deliberate over something properly. Not to be impulsive, not to rush into something. Not to, it's the opposite of like al-ajala. And we know al-ajala min ash-shaytan. Being hasty is from shaitan. Right? The opposite of that is taking your time and thinking things through properly. So the Prophet ﷺ praised these two characteristics in that person. And what do we see with Salamah? We see that she has this characteristic. Even when the Prophet ﷺ proposed to her, she took her time. And she was thinking things through. And she said to him, by Allah, I'm not against the idea, but there are these three things. What are these three things? Number one, I already have children. I already have these orphan children, right? Number two, I am a jealous I am a jealous person, right? And you are married to other people as well. So she's basically saying to him, look, like if you're also married to other people, and I am someone who can be jealous of other women, so that there's also that to consider. And what was the other thing? She said that she's also a very old person. I'm very old now. So what did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, as for your children, I'll take care of them. Right? We said that she has these three children, Salamah and Umar and Zainab. He said, as for these children, I will take care of them. As for al-ghira, or as for the jealousy, I will pray to Allah, I will make dua to Allah that Allah will remove that from you. And as for your age, I'm older than you, right? You may be old, but I'm even older than you, so that's not a problem. So when he said these things, Salamah agreed. Salamah agreed to marry the Prophet ﷺ, and that was completed. Okay. So now Salamah becomes one of the mothers of the believers, right? And we know in the Quran, Allah says in the Quran, النبي أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم وأزواجه أمهاتهم. The wives of the Prophet ﷺ are their mothers, the mothers of the believers. So she now becomes one of the mothers of the believers. Okay. Now she was, of course, she's the wife of the Prophet ﷺ now, so she becomes a teacher for everyone. She becomes a way for people to access the Prophet ﷺ as well. There's this incident I mentioned in one of my previous talks on one of the female companions I did before. Which female companion did we do before COVID? 3 years ago. 2 years ago. Don't remember? No one remembers. Who did we do before?
We did
Nusayba, right? We did Nusayba before. Yeah, Nusayba. So Nusayba noticed in the Quran that the Quran always refers to al-mu'minun, al-muslimun, al-mutasaddiqun, al-musallun, and so on. The Quran always refers to. So in English we just have one plural, right? As they say, English is an orphan language. English doesn't have much, English doesn't have much depth. In English we just have one plural. In Arabic how many plurals do we have?
3.
We have 2 plurals. 3? Which 3?
Oh, no.
You might have a point. Maybe you mean it in a different way. What do you mean by 3?
Like,
You mean al-muthanna? You mean the 2?
oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair enough. Because in English that's all plural as well. Even the 2 is plural. The plural is plural, and the 2 is also plural in English. Because you don't have 2 in English. In Arabic, we've got so we've got the singular, we've got the dual, and we've got the plural. And in all of them we have.
It's probably talking about the broken plural.
You're right. Yes, I forgot that. Good point. Talking about Jam' and Taksir. Okay, very good. Good. Okay, so in Arabic also all of these things are split into two, right? They're split into masculine and feminine, right? So the plural, the Jam' or the plural, it has a male plural and a female plural. However, in Arabic, when the masculine plural is used, it could mean everyone, right? It could mean everyone.
It could mean mixed.
Yeah, exactly,
It can't
exactly.
mean a girl only.
Exactly. So the female plural can only mean females, right? But the masculine plural can only mean the masculine plural can mean everyone.
Everyone else. Apart from
Language is Arabic language is just face it. Arabic language isn't. Actually, well,
Actually,
maybe
English
there are
language
stuff for feminists as well in Arabic because for example, some things are feminine. The broken plural is often feminine, so it works both ways. But in this case, the masculine plural can mean everyone, while the female plural can mean females. And what's my point? My point is, in the Quran it uses the masculine plural, right, most of the time. But as I just said, it can mean everyone. It doesn't just have to mean males. But Nusayba notices that she was saying to the Prophet ﷺ, why is it that only the males are addressed in the Quran, not so much the females? No, she didn't say it to the Prophet ﷺ. The whole point of bringing the story was, who did she go and say it to? She went to Salamah. She mentioned this to Salamah. So what's the point I'm making here? Salamah, just like the other wives of the Prophet, she was a link between the community and the Prophet ﷺ. So many of the women would come to her for advice, or come to her to learn, and they would also come to her to ask questions. So one of the incidents is one of those times is that Nusayba came to her and she said, why is it that the Quran only seems to mention males and doesn't mention females so much? Okay, so Salama mentioned this to the Prophet ﷺ, and one of the verses that was revealed later on was in Surah Al-Ahzab, إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْقَانِتِينَ وَالْقَانِتَاتِ and so on. So it talks about the Muslims, all the male plural, and all the females as well, and then the mu'minun, the males, the male mu'minun and the female mu'minat, والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والخاشعين. It goes on a whole long list, talking about all of these characteristics, like the Muslims, the believers, the ones who pray, the ones who give charity, the ones who fast, and so on. And then he says again, أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. Allah has prepared for them forgiveness and a great reward. But the point of mentioning that was that Salama is one of those who was teaching the women. She was and advising them and so on. Now, she was the last of the Prophet's wives to pass away. She passed away soon after the killing of Al-Hussein. So who is Al-Hussein?
Sorry,
Nephew?
No.
Grandson, the grandson of the Prophet, right? So, and he was killed in Karbala, right? So this was a catastrophe, it was a disaster for the whole Muslim world, and everyone was very upset about this. She was very, very upset, and it said that one narration says she even fainted when she heard the news of this, because it's crazy, right? Imagine that the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ would be killed by some people. It's difficult to imagine for them. So she became very upset, and she passed away soon after that, aged around 90, or she passed the age of 90, right? And so 90 is quite old, and as I said, she was the last of the Prophet's wives to pass away. The last of the Prophet's wives to pass away. Salama. Now, does anyone know who's narrated out of the wives of the Prophet? Who's narrated the most hadith? Aisha, right? Aisha. And on the overall list, she comes fourth. I think I somehow we always get back to who's narrated hadith, and in almost every talk I give, we talk about who's narrated the most hadith, who's second, who's third, who's fourth. But I haven't done a talk here for a long time, so let's see if you guys actually remember what we used to say. Who's narrated the most hadith?
Abu Hurairah.
Abu Hurairah. Then Abdullah ibn Umar. Who's number 3?
Salamah.
Anas ibn Malik. Who's number 4? Aisha. Okay, so this always comes up somehow or the other. So now next if we do another talk and I ask you guys about this again, I expect I'll make a note of who's here, who's sitting here, and who heard that, and I'll ask all of you.
The last one I came to.
So Salamah has also narrated a lot of hadith. She narrated around 500 hadith, many of which are in Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Which is a big thing because the most authentic hadiths are in Bukhari and Muslim. And if it's in both of them, that's even better. All of the people who've narrated from her, from the Tabi'un, and these are very significant people, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib is known as Sayyid al-Tabi'in, the leader of the Tabi'in. He was arguably the most knowledgeable of the Tabi'un. The Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, Amir al-Sha'bi. And he was one of the teachers of Imam Abu Hanifa. Imam Abu Hanifa is the first to really go into fiqh and issues that were not present at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Because you guys know, right? With there are certain things which come up over time. Over time, things change. That's why there's a need for what's called fiqh or Islamic jurisprudence. For example, in our time, there are so many issues which have come up in our time which didn't exist at the time of the Prophet, right? So how does this all work? That's why you need scholars of Islamic law who will study the Quran, study the Sunnah, and study the consensus of the companions of the Prophet and so on, and they will derive ruling for these things which come up. So basically, the first person to really go into what are called nawazil or issues, new issues which weren't there at the time of the Prophet, the first person really to properly do that was Imam Abu Hanifa, and his teacher was this person, Amir al-Sha'bi. And Amir al-Sha'bi is one of those who narrated from Salamah. So that's very significant. Mujahid ibn Jabal, he's another of the great commentators of the Quran, and he was a student of, they will know, Abdullah ibn Abbas, who, as we know, he's one of the greatest Mufassirun, the greatest commentators of the Quran from the companions of the Prophet. And also Nafi', the student of Abdullah ibn Umar. We just mentioned Abdullah ibn Umar, right? Second highest number of narrations. They say in the science of hadith, the golden chain of narration, as-silsila al-dhahabiyya, is what? It's Imam Malik, from Nafi', this person, from Abdullah ibn Umar, from the Prophet ﷺ. So Nafi' is a very significant person. He features in the most authentic chain, hadith chain, and he also learned from Salamah. So again, you can see she was a woman, but she was teaching all these people, right? All of these great scholars, all of this great knowledge has come and reached us. One of their teachers was Salamah, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. So we owe a lot to her. A lot of the knowledge that we have now, it actually goes all the way back to her. As I said before, all the narrations from Abyssinia, all those stories about Ja'far communicating with the king of Abyssinia and so on. How do we know all of this? We know all of this because Salamah narrated it. Okay, and another significant name is Ata ibn Abi Rabah. Ata was also a teacher of Abu Hanifa, and he also learned from Salamah. So there are many people who learned from Salamah. And that brings us to the end of the story of Salamah. As I said, she passed away, aged around 90, radiallahu anha. May Allah have mercy on Salamah. And that brings us to the end. Does anyone have any questions? Probably the shortest I've ever done, record time. Does anyone have any questions?
What we're going to do quiz.
Are you going to do a quiz? Okay, but you don't want to ask me questions before I ask you questions? No?
Wait.
Yes?
Can you tell me all the answers?
I'll pretend I didn't hear that.
Can you give me all the answers to the quiz?
Let's see what we've got.
Let's try. But, I've got a question. Was
Yes.
Salamah the last person to write
Was Salamah the last person? The last person what?
To marry.
Oh, no, she wasn't.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, go for it.
Was it not in the beginning you said Salamah and Prophet Sallallahu they have the breastfeeding from?
No, not Salamah. Salamah's husband.
Oh, okay.
So Abu Salamah was the brother of breastfeeding from Prophet. Yeah, but that's good to clarify that. There's one thing actually which I missed, which was very important, very important. Okay, let me just quickly check what the points in here. Yeah, very important. I missed this. Salamah was, as we just said, she was very knowledgeable, very intelligent, and so on. One important, and she would often advise. She would advise many people, as I said, even the Prophet ﷺ himself. So on the expedition of Hudaybiyah, the Muslims were going to perform the pilgrimage, right? We're going to Mecca to perform the pilgrimage. They were all excited. Everyone thought they would go to perform it. They went towards Mecca. In Hudaybiyah, on the way to Mecca, they were stopped by the disbelievers of Mecca, and they didn't want them to come. And they made a treaty, basically saying, okay, you won't do it this year. You'll do it when? Next year. And we'll have a peace treaty for 10 years. But you're not going to make pilgrimage this year, or you're going to make it next year. And even the conditions of the treaty didn't seem very fair. Does anyone remember anything which seemed a bit one-sided about it? Yes?
Oh, no.
Yes, yeah.
So if anybody went from Mecca to Medina to join the Muslims, they'd be sent back. But if they went from Medina to Mecca, then they were allowed to go.
Exactly. Blatantly one-sided, right? In spite of that this was actually it turned out to be a victory for the Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ accepted these conditions, yeah?
Yeah, like a lot of Muslims complained about it. They were
Exactly,
they were
yeah.
very
So
happy with it.
that's why I'm coming. So a lot of the Muslims complained about it, especially Umar radiallahu anhu. He was very upset about it. He went to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "Alasna al-Muslimun? Are we not the Alasna al-Muslimin? Are we not the Muslims?" And the Prophet ﷺ said yes. And he said, "Alaysu kuffar? Are they not the disbelievers?" And then he said, "Are we not on the truth and them on the falsehood?" And he said yes. And then Umar was saying, why are we going back without performing the Hajj? He was quite, he was upset about it. And all the Muslims were upset about it. And the Prophet ﷺ agreed, and they're not going to perform Hajj now. They come to perform Hajj. They're not going to perform Hajj now. They're going to go back. In terms of the fiqh of this, they came to perform Hajj, had the intention of performing Hajj. They came in the ihram and everything. Now they're going to turn back. What do they have to do? What does it say in the Quran? Yes, exactly. Yes. So they have to slaughter they have to do the slaughter. They have to slaughter that, and they also have to shave their head, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, yes. So the Prophet ﷺ was over. I mean, there are details on that, but yeah, they have to shave. The Prophet ﷺ, I mean, the best is to shave anyway. I mean, seeing as you asked, I should probably say it because you asked. Some people, people go to perform the pilgrimage, and not everyone shaves, right? Some people do. Some people just trim. They don't shave fully. So the du'a of the Prophet ﷺ was 3 times for the people who shave, and only once for the people who do like taqsir. The only once for the people who just trim. So it's much better to shave. But anyway, the point is you have to cut some of your hair, whether you shave or you only cut a little bit. And it's much better to shave than to just cut a little bit. Even if maybe you don't want to be bored and you come back and everyone's laughing at you, but it's worth it for the reward, you know. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, okay, we're not going to perform the pilgrimage now. All of you slaughter your animals and shave your head. And none of them were doing it. Now, this is unusual as well. The Prophet ﷺ is normally they would all jump to obey him, and he's telling them, and none of them are doing it. And it's not that they didn't want to disobey him. It's just that they were all so excited to come and perform the pilgrimage, and now they're looking at him and they're thinking, well, maybe he'll change his mind. Maybe if we wait a little bit, maybe he'll change his mind. He'll say, actually, no, we can do it now. And he was getting a bit upset because they're not listening to him. So he asked Salama. So he went to Salama and he was saying to her, look, what's happening? And Salama said to him, do you want them to listen to you? And he said, yeah, of course, I want them to listen to me. So then she was going to give him some advice. And now there's a very important point here, which is it allowed for a husband to seek advice from his wife?
Yes, obviously.
Of course.
Of course. Why not?
Yes, yes, of course it's allowed, right? Of course it's allowed. I hope we all know that.
It's wajib.
Of course, yeah, exactly. Of course it's allowed. We should all know that, right? Because the thing is, as I'm sure many of you would have heard stories of many passionate Muslim people in this country who maybe don't really think that's such a good idea. Of course, right? Of course, you have to ask advice from everyone around, from everyone that there is to take advice from. And the first person who you take advice from is your wife, right? That should be the reaction of everyone. Unfortunately, that's not always the reaction of everyone. Some people don't. Some people maybe don't think about doing that. And the Prophet ﷺ was receiving revelation from Allah. Yes, the Prophet ﷺ was receiving revelation from Allah, and even so, he took advice from his wife. Nowadays, no one receives revelation. So even more so, people should take advice. So she's going to give him some advice on what to do now. She said to him, if you want them to listen to you, you should go and do it yourself. Don't speak to anyone, don't say anything, don't tell them to do it, just go and do it yourself. So he went, he slaughtered his animal, he shaved his head, and guess what? All the Sahaba, when they saw him doing that, they were all running and jumping over each other to slaughter the animal and shave the head, to the point that it seemed like it got a bit dangerous. They're all running with their knives to slaughter the animal. It seemed like it wasn't safe. They were so keen to do it. Because you see, she understood the situation. She realized that the companions, it's not that they didn't want to listen to him. It's just that they saw he wasn't doing it himself. So they were thinking, well, maybe there's still a chance he might change his mind. There's still a chance, Allah might reveal to him, actually, you can do it now. But she realized once he does it himself, then they'll understand this is an established thing. It's going to happen for certain. There's no changing it. There's no changing this. So they would actually all go and do it themselves as well. So this was the advice that Salama gave to the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, we come to the quiz now. Yes. Oh, you want to ask a question? Yeah, go for it. This is from Surah Al-Ahzab. Surah Al-Ahzab. Okay, so okay, let's start with the question. Yeah. Oh, that team. What yeah, so yeah, class, man versus sisters. Okay. Because Yes. So because the sisters are on my right hand side, we'll start with the sisters' side. So the first question is there's 1 mark for this. There's 1 mark for this. How long will we have for the questions? We will have 30 seconds to answer. Yeah, 30 seconds is good. 30 seconds.
What if you have 3 guesses?
It's going to be Maghrib in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I would only allow you 14 questions.
No, but I don't think you should allow them just to keep it going on and on.
Okay, Bismillah. Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody quiet, please.
So the first question is, for the sisters, the first question is, what was the real name of Salamah? Hind. Okay, Hind. Everyone said it. Class. Okay, so the sisters got that point. Okay. The question for the brothers is, how long did Salamah live for?
90 years.
90 plus.
Over 90 years. Good. Okay. Warm up round. Okay. The question for the sisters is, who helped Salamah to reach Medina? Uthman ibn Talha. Okay, good. Okay, question for the brothers is, alright, I hope you get this one. In what expedition did Salamah advise the Prophet? Hudaybiyah. Yes. Hudaybiyah. Okay. Okay. The question for the sisters is. The question for the sisters is. What did Salamah? What did Abu Salamah say to Salamah when he was dying? Okay, give me like the full thing. You know, this is not just one mark. Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wa akhlifni khayran minha. Yeah, good. Okay, and to get married again as well. Yeah, very good. Okay, question for the brothers. What happened? What was the sequence of events which led to Salamah being separated from her family? Yes.
So basically, she had a child. So the husband was going to Medina on pilgrimage. She wasn't allowed to go, so the family said the baby has to stay here. Her family said the baby has to stay here. His family said, no, we want the baby. So they tried to pull the baby. The arm was dislocated, so she screamed and said, take him. And then, so he still went to Medina. And then after somebody came and said, after 1 year, look, she's mourning, let her go. Then her family let her go, and the family that took the baby let her go, and she went to Medina.
Okay, good. Well done. I would say though, I mean, it wasn't that her family said her baby just said her baby has to stay. Her family said she has to stay. Like both of them have to stay. And then his family said, we're going to take the baby. So it wasn't, yeah, but
Give him the
we'll
point anyway.
pass that. Yeah. So okay, so it's all level now, right? It's all level.
3-3.
Okay. The question for the sisters is. Where did Uthman ibn Talha find her, and where did he leave her? Where did he pick her up, and where did he drop her off? I can't hear anyone. He dropped her at Quba, yes. Where did he pick her up? Tan'im. Okay, fine. Sister's got that point. Okay. So that was 2, right? There was 2 marks, right? So the brother's question is, can you name for me, please? Yeah, guys, keep it down a bit. Can you name for me 2 people who narrated from Salamah? 2 people.
I think it was Nafi'.
Nafi'?
And Mujahid.
Nafi' and Mujahid. Okay, good. So it seems like we're all level. Okay, that's it. It's a tie. Let's go and pray.
Half of the cake.
Half and half of the cake. I think they've got a lot of cake anyway, so it's okay. Everyone can share, you know. Draw.
We said win.
Okay, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.